Hello there, my name is Rosarii Mannion and you are all so welcome to GLF 2022. I am a member of the Professional Coaches Board of Directors. I have been Treasurer and I am now a Director at Large on the board and so delighted to have this opportunity to engage with you all today as part of the Education and Growth section of our ICF 2022 programme. Today we are talking about chapter finances and revenue generation, which is so important in terms of the future health of ICF and indeed of your chapters. And why are we looking at this area? Obviously, we want to support you in ensuring that you can fulfill your duty of care, understand your financial implications of decisions that are being made, contribute confidently as part of your chapter and at board meetings, and understand the terminology. Sometimes we may have a fear around some of the terminology that we hear, and it's important just to get behind that and explain it in plain English so that you are able to contribute better. I always say finance without strategy is just numbers, and strategy without finance is just dreaming. And we do not want to be dreaming all of the time. And it is so important that we know how our financial data is supporting the strategy of one ICF and how it is the backbone of what we are doing in the organization. Two different terminologies you may have come across: financial accounting and management accounting. I have to admit, financial accounting is not my favorite. It's historical. It's looking at the whole organization, looking at the external users, very, very focused and reliant on precision and accuracy and rules-based. Whereas management accounting is future-focused. Where are we going? Where is our strategy? How can our finance generation support implementation? It's looking at various parts of the organization, speed and relevance, and of course, at all times, best practice and what would be the best thing to do in relation to the finances. There are three key areas of responsibility. We have financial reporting, risk management, and financial strategy. And they are the three things that anybody involved in finance at chapter level would need to be aware of. There are two crucial questions that must always be asked. Are we compliant with all relevant laws and regulations? And are we compliant with the requirements of accounting standards? And with this, if I could encourage you just to look at the local requirements there in your own geographic area. What must you attend to? What is the legal requirement? And make sure that that is aligned in terms of what you are doing on behalf of one ICF. It is really important that everybody that is holding a leadership role as a volunteer with ICF, that we understand our fiduciary responsibilities. Are all the decisions that we take in the best interests of the organization? Are they open, transparent, and are our finances all compliant with the laws and regulations? In terms of annual accounts, reports and accounts, there are two key elements: the financial statements and the narrative reports. We never look at one without the other. Obviously, they are supportive and aligned and allow for that appropriate interrogation. Our annual reports and accounts are used by external parties, and crucially, they must be true and fair, accurate recording of where we are at in the organization. In ICF, we always report on our accounts, and you will find those openly on our ICF website. External audit is, and the key aspect here, independent examination. So it's not what I say, what our excellent finance director, Ben Polk, says in Global ICF, but it is an independent examination and expression of an opinion on the financial statements of the organization. This is a legal requirement, and it ensures that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. Going back to my previous slide, that they are a true and fair reflection. And directors are required to ensure that there is a proper relationship with company auditors. Sometimes we might like an external audit, but it is our responsibility to ensure that there is good, positive relations with our external auditors. And by and large, there always is. Corporate failure, a term that we mightn't like, but just to be aware of what it is. And this occurs when an organization is no longer able to continue business due to a continued loss or lack of liquidity, that's the flow of cash, to honour payments as they fall due, or both. And reasons can include overtrading, fraud, poor controls, lack of liquidity, and unmanageable gearing. Gearing are looking at risk. How risky are our decisions that we are making? Very happy to report that have never encountered this in my career around corporate failure, but it is important to have a knowledge and awareness of what it is. So in terms of budgeting, this is really, really key. And we don't just want to measure our results. We want to measure what drives our results. So at chapter level, when you are considering revenue generation, you will all the time be thinking, what's driving our results? What are the income? What is the expenditure? How are they measuring up? Are we in a good, healthy state? So all the time looking at the drivers of your results. So in terms of budget management, we obviously want to be looking at forecasting, what's coming down the line, planning, what do we want to achieve, what are we going to achieve in the next 1, 2, 3, 5 years. Communication, are we able to communicate at global level back to our members, how are we spending the money? Obviously, to help us motivation around generating increased finances, looking at new membership, growth, etc. Evaluation, able to make informed judgments, and of course, assessing and managing risk. At all times, we want to be ensuring that what we are doing is creating value and that decisions that we are taking are good and positive for chapter and for the overall ICF. Another core prediction is very difficult, especially if this is about the future. Never has that been more relevant when we see the global pandemic that we find ourselves in and how chapters have had to respond, how one ICF has responded, and doing all of that with style. But always remember when you're looking at value and how you might create it, it may be subjective. Use tools with caution. So look at more than one approach when you're analyzing your data. And of course, we are a people business. So obviously, always taking into account the non-financial aspects in terms of what you're hoping will create and add value. Accounts obviously are so important that we have systemic records, that we have to protect the sustainability of the chapter in terms of workforce planning, future planning, growth, new board members joining, that they can see at a glance the health of the chapter, where you have been generating additional funds, where your leakages are, etc., and to have that and be able to communicate that regardless of who's in the chair at the time, meet your legal requirements, and of course to assist in decision making. So a chapter needs to be profitable. So when we say we're a non-for-profit organization, that does not mean no profit or that we're not focused on generating profit. It just means that the money that we generate goes back into our members and goes into the promotion of coaching as the global leader ICF is in terms of advancing coaching across the world and in society. Looking at income and expense in ICF chapters, obviously you've got to know what are your sources of income. Are they membership fees? Are you generating income from advertising on the website? Are you advertising in chapter publications? Have you sponsorships? Are you running events that would generate income? So workshops, webinars, seminars. What's topical at the moment? What would attract large audiences? Have you the ability to partner with companies to generate that income for ICF? And of course, conference, trade shows, and even sale of merchandise. So know yourself within your own chapter, what is your source of income and how can you expand and grow that? So typical chapter expenses then, what's going out the door? You may have admin costs, you may need help with accounting, you may have software licenses, website development and hosting. I have a range of them there on the slide. Please feel free to pour over those on your own time. But really important at all times to keep a handle on the expenses and make sure that they are not growing excessively in comparison to your income. So ICF is totally supportive of our chapters across the globe, and there is funding available from ICF to help and support compliant chapters. So how do we determine that a chapter is compliant? Well, obviously the financial supports are there. They align with what I have talked to you about. The chapter activity reports have been submitted, and the chapter is operating in line with ICF policies, with the agreements, and of course with the bylaws. So types of income from ICF that are available, obviously the annual marketing stimulus, rebates, chapter development funds, and trade shows. And your regional development manager will be absolutely able to point you in the right direction and make sure that you're aware of how to access and draw down this type of income that can support your chapter. So what projects will the chapter engage in? Again, there is no one size fits all. It may depend on what's topical in your area, what the skills are, who your partners are, how you're trying to attract in that additional income, and of course, what the project will earn and cost. Always to be looking at the assumptions and risks in terms of your planning. So, for instance, if you're making the assumption that your chapter is going to have a 10% growth in members, to make sure that that is realistic and what will happen if that doesn't happen. And of course, counterbalancing that with the risks, obviously. So in terms of planning for conferences, after last year's GLF, I had a request to cover this particular one this year. So the leadership team, your chapter leaders, just to understand the risks with that, understand your budget, what can you spend, what would be your expected ticket sales and revenue, sponsorship and advertising. And I would always encourage, just a word of advice really from experience, is be conservative, obviously, with your expected profitability, but do not be conservative with expenses. That way you won't be caught out. So when you are planning for conferences, remember, and particularly when you're doing your billing, everything is negotiable. Negotiate when you will pay vendors, the process payments, compare your prices, obviously compliant with tendering rules and regulations, and track your budget versus actuals very, very closely and weekly if necessary. So in conclusion, a few words I just want to finish with. I wanted in this short slot that I have with you to show you that finance is much more than just numbers, that the projects and initiatives of your chapter can really influence and change people's lives. And in doing that, your chapter needs to be financially viable. That's what we want to do. This is just the start of a conversation about finance and a first step in providing you with some basic financial information. It is vital that every revenue item is funding that can be spread the power of coaching and help members, coaches, and clients. And every expense that is incurred is done so with the purpose of serving your members, coaches, clients, and also to contribute to a better and more sustainable community and society. And as an ICF leader, you have been elected by your members to make sure that your chapters have a wise utilization of the funds you generate and receive from ICF, and also that the funds generated by the chapter are supporting that global vision for coaching. So thank you so much for taking the time to engage, to listen to this session. I am available to follow up with you individually, collectively. On the ICF PC board, we are here to serve you, our members. So don't hesitate. If there is any further information that you need or you would like to follow up with me, please reach out and I would be more than happy to connect with you. Thank you very much and have a great conference. Bye for now.
Hello and welcome. I'm John Volturo, 2021 Chapter President of ICF Los Angeles. During our time together, I will share with you ICF LA's 3 key learnings that help us generate revenue while lowering expenses in 2021. My hope is that by the end of our time together, you'll feel informed and maybe even empowered to experiment within your chapter to achieve your specific goals. Let's quickly start with our mission. Our mission at ICF LA is to provide connection, education, and resources to practicing and aspiring professional coaches to help them enhance their professional skills and grow their practices. So our first insight, starting and ending with relevant programming drives chapter engagement, connection, and ultimately revenue and growth. Even though the COVID pandemic upended all our chapters and our lives, ICF LA kept producing innovative programming. And while all signs were pointing to Zoom and meeting fatigue, we still made a conscious effort to keep up the same pace we had pre-pandemic, and we did. The pandemic was no time to slow down because if we did, our members would suffer. And I'm glad we followed that path. In 2021, we produced 75 innovative events and offered about 70 continuing education credits for our ICF LA community. Events included our expanded chapter meetings and chapter experiences, special interest groups, our teleclasses, our newly branded and collaborative ICF Pacific Chapter Speaker Series, a robust ICW experience, and the exciting Los Angeles Talent Summit. So how did we figure out what to do? At ICF LA, we listen closely to what our members say via our annual survey. It helps us to develop our North Star each year, especially when we don't have the benefit of talking in person. So what did we focus on to drive engagement in 2021? Well, at the beginning of the year, we knew some things would be more important than in previous years. After George Floyd's tragic death in the US, our coaches saw demand for diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives rise. On top of that, we also saw an increase in demand for content centered around emotional intelligence and other key growth areas like neuroscience and executive coaching. Our members also wanted more speakers of the highest caliber. So in 2021, ICF LA launched an emotional intelligence special interest group. We launched a DEI committee. ICF LA worked with other Pacific chapters to launch a branded speaker series that attracted Marshall Goldsmith and others of similar caliber. These cross-chapter events drew very large attendance numbers and spikes in revenue each time we had an event. And ICFLA created an event for every day of ICW. Yes, every day. Did I mention every day? Importantly, these events deepen the perception that ICFLA is innovative and focused on member growth. So due to this robust line of innovative programming, we also introduced the Coach Curious and others from outside the Los Angeles region to the ICFLA chapter. In fact, it's not unusual to see many international faces at our events. Here's a great example of that in action, the Los Angeles Talent Summit. Each October, we have what Hollywood folks like to call a tentpole event. Think of it as a big movie premiere. For ICFLA, it's the LA Talent Summit, our biggest event of the year. It brings together different organizations adjacent to the work we do as coaches from across the region, where we put our talent on display to deepen the connection and highlight opportunities in other organizations. So in 2021, we wanted this year to be as exciting as possible to attract attendees. So we invited back a master of ceremonies to bring the show together. And while this event cost much more to produce, it was well worth it, as it also introduced many new prospective members to ICFLA. In the days and weeks following the event, our membership team went into overdrive, and we grew our membership by following up with each new person we saw register through our website. So to attract the greatest number of attendees in a Zoom-fatigued world, we promoted our programming via our newsletter, the President's newsletter, all of our email, on our ICFLA website, and on our ICFLA LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram accounts. We even asked our board members to tag each other so we could easily share the events to our networks. On top of that, we paid to promote our posts to drive attendance. We knew we needed to make this investment to amplify our impact. So as a result of delivering on a finely tuned focus on what our chapter members' education and resource needs were, we saw attendance at each event at the same level or even higher than in previous years. Not such a bad outcome for an extraordinary year. So when I began my year as president, I was concerned that our profit and loss statement would look bad by the end of the year. With that feeling and knowledge, I refocused our team's efforts on cost containment without it impacting the quantity or quality of our programming. And as a result, we ended up the year with more money in our bank account than in the most immediate previous years. So how did we create such a healthy financial year? For starters, we automated our profit and loss in QuickBooks in 2020 to ensure we had adequate and timely information each month. We hired a bookkeeper, and our treasurer, a former CFO herself, kept the board apprised of all impacts on our P&L every month. At the same time, we also knew we wanted to get better at making data-driven decisions. So we invested in creating automated reports that help us make key decisions around member development and engagement events. Also, moving from in-person to virtual chapter meetings enabled us to redirect available funds to improve member-facing resources and technical support to enable easier member transactions when at the ICFLA website. So some of these cost savings were used to improve the member experience. We focused on website functionality, like making it easier to register for events, join, renew, find CCE certificates, and we refined our Find a Coach page so our coaches get noticed in Google searches. We also built out our Add Your Own Event, so our site would become more of a destination for discovery as well. By all indications, our work in 2021 is paying off, and it will be ongoing. Thank you for inviting me to present some of the key accomplishments at ICFLA. I look forward to speaking with you in the future.
Hello to the coaches from all over the world. Wishing you a wonderful GLF 2022 experience. I'm Katrin Oblikas, and I'm very happy to share with you today the learnings of ICF Estonia, and more specifically, how ICF Estonian team has created a revenue with the project Leadership Conference Coaching. There are three main wins I would like to share with you today. First, how we created revenue with our specific role in a partnership. Second, the additional benefits with what we have for our members within the partnership. And third, the networking opportunities the project such has created for the coaches. So let's start from the successful partnership. We have three main players in this game. First of all, Aribav, well-known conference organizer and marketing provider in Estonia. So their role has been to sell and to market and all the technical side of a conference. And ICF Estonia joined forces with another coaching association in a market called ESCU to provide one voice to the market. And our role in this partnership is to design a program and to be with our speakers until the stage. And we have agreed with Aribav a specific percentage of the program revenue after the direct costs, which we share with other coaching association. Secondly, at any moment, our members can get 30% off ticket price of a conference, the price at the moment. Secondly, we have agreed a different promotional packages. We call them visibility packages for our coaches. For example, they could buy a page in a book of coaches of Estonia. So you have an opportunity to market your association or your own business, and to be visible at the conference. And as well, this book was shared in other conferences of Aribav, our partner. And the third benefit, during the conference, we provided almost 100 mini coaching sessions by 25 coaches. So this is an opportunity either really to do a mini coaching with your potential client, or to let the person discussing with you to know what the coaching is or what it's not, or just to get to know each other, to try what the coaching is. And third win I would like to share with you is that it's really a networking place for coaches and the potential clients, because the target audience are leaders. So the conference dedicated to leadership through coaching. And we have many leaders there, many HR people there, and it has been a wonderful occasion to meet a potential client, to make agreements, and to get to know each other, and why not to make agreements for the next great projects. So wishing you a very happy GLF experience. Hope you have enjoyed this sharing. And if you got curious, please don't hesitate to contact me. I am more than happy to share the project of ICF Estonia and our learnings from it. Thank you very much, and please enjoy the Global Leadership Forum. Thank you.
I'm Yumiko Shito, the President of Japan Chapter. Today, I'm so pleased to share our experience, how ICF Japan Chapter successfully increased the revenue. This is a 3-year comparison. As you can see, the annual income has been increasing and the expenditure has been decreasing. Let me expand a little bit more. In the past 5 years, our annual income has been increasing approximately 41% every single year. It became nearly 3 times more since 5 years ago. And then the expenditure has been decreasing approximately 20% every year. One of the key factors of the revenue growth is the increase of the chapter membership. However, there are 3 major reasons for this result in addition to that. One is the increase of the number of events. We have been adding new activities every year. For example, coaching practice community. This is the community where any coach can participate in to brush up their coaching skills. And Pro Bono Coaching Project. It was the one-year project. This project is not directly related to the revenue generation, but it definitely boosted the ICF visibility in Japan. We were able to increase the number of events because more volunteer staff have been involved to chapter activities. And those activities motivated more coaches to join the ICF. So it became a good circulation. Increase of the recognition of ICF and motivated coaches were the important factors. Next one is the standardization of the event fees. We reconsidered our fee structures and discussed the value of each event. The modification of the fee structure gave the participants a clear idea of the event values. The third one is the online events delivery. As the result of going full online, people from broader areas started attending events more and more. We used to think that Japan is such a small country, so anyone can come to Tokyo where the most of the events were held. But it was not true. Online delivery enabled and motivated more and more people to participate in the events. And needless to say, the travel and venue expenses drastically decreased because of that. From these experiences, there were three key learnings for us. Power of involvements and participation from ACTP and ACSTH. We approached all ACTP and ACSTH in Japan. Now we have a committee called ICF Japan Advisory Board. All ACTP and the majority of ACSTH in Japan are now the member of this community. We regularly have a meeting online and discuss the common challenges and try to solve them together. And we often discuss the future of coaching in Japan. We made it happen because we took a neutral stance in the market and tried to coordinate and share the valuable information for them and with them. And we experienced the paradigm shift. We released what we used to believe. We used to think that we, ICF, should be responsible for providing everything what the coaches and coaching schools might need as a giver. But now we strongly believe that ICF might initiate activities at the beginning, but we all can work together. ICF Japan Chapter, coaches and coaching schools. We know it is much more powerful. At the end, let me mention that the revenue growth was not our initial intention at all. What I'd like to emphasize as the key message from Japan chapter is that the revenue growth occurred as the result of our constant activities to support professional coaches and coaching schools in Japan. It happened as a result of what we did. Thank you. Thank you so much for your attendance today.